Good evening, everybody. Matt DeMarinis here from White and Blue Review. I hope you all had a nice, safe Thanksgiving. Tonight we're here with, joined by Greg McDermott, head coach of the Creighton Bluejays. They're getting ready to finally open their season on Sunday afternoon against North Dakota State after a slight delay, as will be custom for many teams in this wild season we're about to have. I guess first of all, Mac, thank you for hopping on and joining me for this preview podcast we're about to do. How are you doing? First of all, how's the family and everybody?
Everybody's good. The Thanksgiving was obviously different. Most years we're playing on Thanksgiving. So, we actually practiced yesterday morning and then had a meal together as a group last night and had some of the players' moms ship us some of their childhood pictures. So we had a little slideshow of a bunch of the guys when they were younger that brought a few laughs. So, we did the best we could with a difficult situation. Obviously, guys would love to be home with their families, or we would have especially liked to been in Sioux Falls playing in that tournament. But as you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of twists and turns to this season, and we have to try to adjust the best we can when they happen.
Yeah, we're going to try to break down the roster basically top to bottom here for you guys in a little bit. But first of all, Mac, I just want to get like your insight into how this North Dakota State game came about, because you've seen it now. It's not typical of scheduling, but you've seen teams start to be able to do it, come together with a game in a matter of days as opposed to what it usually takes. And Villanova's out at the Mohegan Sun right now. They're done with their MTE, but they're staying out there to play Virginia Tech. That just came together today. So I don't know if you can provide much insight on that, but how did this North Dakota State game come together for you?
Well, first of all, Murph he's working constantly on a list of teams that are available that have lost games that could possibly need games, because you just don't know when it's going to happen to you. And we thought we were safe going into the South Dakota. We had gotten through, really months of testing without any problems. And then we had some positive test pop, and, I had to pull out of that tournament. Knowing that there was no way we could be possibly ready to play on Wednesday with, what we had to do and take the time to go through the contact tracing to figure out, who needed to be pulled away and who could return to the practice floor. Because there's a safety issue too of, throwing guys out there. Obviously we're short-handed already with Modestus and with 12 scholarship players, 2 of them have ACLs, and then you have Alex. So you're down to 9 to start with if everybody's healthy, and that hasn't exactly been the case. So we did feel like once we got through contact tracing that we would be able to play a game a couple days before the UNO game. Certainly not with everybody in practice at full strength, but we thought we could get a game. And I just think it's really important, Matt, we get to 13 games as fast as you can. And as you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know where the season's going to go, and you want to try to make sure that you reach the minimums that the NCAA has set forth. And Dave Richmond, the head coach at North Dakota State, was a student manager for me when I coached at North Dakota State. He went for a semester with me as my GA at Northern Iowa before he decided to return to Fargo, chasing a girl going back to a girlfriend that's now his wife of 17 or 18 years. So he made a good call there. So there was a relationship there. Their MTE got canceled, which was going to be a 3-game MTE. They ended up in Lincoln in Nebraska's, which is only 2 games for them. So we reached out, and while they're here, we decided to put together a game as they pass back through town. And, I think it's good for both teams. We get to have an opener, and they get to knock out that 3rd game.
I think, it's funny, every year around this time, the players are sick of playing against each other and they want to play a game so badly, and the coaches never feel like they have enough practices going into a season. Where do you feel right now? Because this, obviously, you've had interruptions, and it's obviously a season that's going to be, like you've mentioned several times, where you have to adjust on the fly, both with an opponent and with who's available for you guys. Like, how prepared do you feel for Sunday in terms of what you're going to put on the floor?
Well, you're right. I don't think a coach ever feels totally prepared, and I think I fall into that category. You still wish there was things that, you wish you would have covered more. And having said all that, the guys need to play. It's been a long road for them going back to last March. Generally we would have a closed scrimmage and an exhibition game sometime during the 6 weeks of our allowable practice. And on top of that 6 weeks, that 30 days in I guess 30 days in 6 weeks, they gave us an extra, call it 3 weeks on the front end where we could be in the gym 8 hours a week as a group. So we've really been going since September 21st, really 2 months without any outside competition. Having said all that, we probably haven't had what I would call our, 8 rotational guys, solid rotational guys, maybe call it 9. I'm not sure we've had that group together at any point during our practice, given it, be it an injury, be it quarantine or isolation. So we haven't had a lot of time together. So it's been rather piecemeal in that regard. Guys playing out of position, different positions, practices where you only had, 8 players available. So we've seen a little bit of everything. And, the unfortunate thing is we probably have not had enough guys. Knock on wood, our guys have done a great job avoiding the virus for the most part. That's a positive, and in some ways it's a negative because, obviously the numbers and the odds are saying that you're probably going to have some more cases run through your team because of what's going on in our country right now. So we have to be as diligent as possible as a staff and as a group of players and support staff to try to keep that virus out of our building the best we possibly can.
Before we jump into this roster preview, I'm just wondering, it's like I asked Flan this after their first game too, because I know how competitive you guys are. So I'm not expecting a moral victory just by being on the floor. But at the same time, these players have had a lot taken from them in terms of what they invested in terms of what they're kind of getting out of it with not having an NCAA tournament, with having a season in flux right now, and not knowing what the future holds even with that. Is there a part of you that's just more appreciative of the game than maybe you've ever been at this point in your career? Even though you guys have a lot of expectations, pick second in the league, everybody thinks very highly of you in terms of what you could possibly do in the postseason if we get to one. But is there a part of you that is just appreciating the fact that you're going to have an opportunity to get back on the floor after being off of it for so long?
Yeah, I don't think anybody, number one, ever thought that the NCAA tournament and the world, for that matter, would be shut down by a pandemic. I think when we left New York after we found out the NCAA tournament was canceled, I didn't think in our wildest dreams that we thought close to December 1st it would be worse than what it was in March, and here we are. So I'm thankful for the guys. They deserve something good to happen. And you talked, Matt, all about all the basketball athletic related things, but think about being a college student in this day and age. Think about being a senior in college, one of the greatest years of your life before you enter the real world, so to speak. Our guys and college students in general aren't able to enjoy a lot of the things socially that go with being in college. And that's, it's part of your development as a person, is the things that you experience while you're in college. And that part of it's really been taken away from them in large part. So, I feel for them for what's been taken away from them, not only from a basketball standpoint, but also just being a college student and spending time with friends and, being able to run home and see your family if we had a long weekend, all that's been taken away. They're here on Thanksgiving. They'll likely be here for Christmas as well, as we try to make this season happen. So, I feel for our guys, and I'm really appreciative of how they've handled this. And we're fortunate that we have some great leadership and upperclassmen on this team that's helped us really navigate through some tough times.
Just jumping in here to the roster, I kind of want to start with this freshman class because it's kind of an interesting group, obviously from all corners of the world, but different ways they got here and everything. I think starting with this walk-on trio you have, Devin Davis, Sammy Osmani, and certainly a kid you've known for a long time, and Andrew Murfeld. What do you like about that group coming in? Because you certainly have had a lot of success with, how valuable your walk-ons have been to the program as they have grown into it.
No question. been incredibly important, and some of them have figured out a way onto the playing floor, and you never know when they start if that's going to happen. And I wasn't sure Tyler Clement would ever play, or Jet Canfield, and they figured out a way. So who knows? And Sammy was someone we watched in high school. We're impressed with his ability to shoot the basketball. He had some off-season surgery that slowed him down a little bit, but I think he's starting to find his groove now. Devin kind of recruited us. He had applied to Creighton and I think received some academic scholarships and was interested in joining the team. And frankly, we probably weren't really looking to add anybody. But because of the pandemic and the uncertainty of the flux in your roster, depending on what happened, we decided to. And fortunately, it's worked out for us to have him, and he's done a good job at that point guard position on the scout team. And then Andrew Muirfeld, unfortunately, he's been fighting a hamstring injury a good portion of our practice, and he can't quite get behind him, but he's going to be really good for us. He just, as you would expect, being Coach Murph's son. Great feel and understanding for the game, fundamentally rock solid, and has been a really, really positive addition to our team.
Two guys that I know you were pretty excited about. Unfortunately, they succumbed to season-ending injuries, as is unfortunately the circumstances that some of these foreign kids face when they have to adjust to a new style of a game. Roddy Andronikashvili and Modestas Contreras obviously went down for you. Before that, you got to see a little bit of them in workouts and practice. What were your early impressions of them? And even with these injuries, what do you still kind of foresee in what they could possibly bring to your program?
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't see a lot of them. They got here late because of visa problems with the pandemic. I think Mo got here, just a few days before school started. He had to quarantine 14 days once he arrived. Rati didn't arrive till after the start of classes, and then had to quarantine 14 days upon his arrival. And then they both ended up in quarantine or isolation for another 14 days at some point. So they were off the floor a lot. I think it speaks to the value of being able to get those young guys here in the summertime, having them work with Jeremy Anderson to prepare their bodies for, what they're going to have to endure once practice starts. And very unfortunate injuries. They were both making really, really good progress. Both injuries, non-contact injuries, really nobody within 10 feet of them when it happened. So, very unfortunate, but, Rati can really see the floor. He's very creative and crafty with the way that he plays. Modestas is just he moves his feet really well for someone 6'9". He's got to develop his jump shot a little bit better, and we were working on that. But now their focus is on their rehabilitation and getting back on the floor. They both have had successful surgery, I think a week apart. I mean, that's probably the one silver lining. You hate to have this happen to one guy, let alone two. But you have two roommates that are going to go through it together, which I think, the peaks and valleys that you have emotionally when you're going through this for the first time can be very, very difficult. So for them to have each other along with the rest of their teammates and our coaching staff, hopefully we can get them past it, and they'll be better coming out of it on the other end.
And Ryan Caulkbrenner, 7-footer freshman, I know you guys are really excited about. Obviously, it brings a lot of shot blocking prowess to the gym. I guess I'm just kind of wondering, because this has been an unusual summer for these newcomers into the program. Like you mentioned with Rati and Modestas, they didn't get, that extra time with you to kind of get accustomed to what it's like. And so they kind of had to hit the ground running from day one as soon as the team got together. What have you seen so far out of Ryan in terms of not only how he's adjusting, but how he fits into what your plans are for this season?
Well, Ryan made the decision. We were allowed, because there's a whole new set of rules because of COVID, and they really loosened some things up. And one of the things they allowed us to do is the players could actually live with us during the spring and the summer during COVID. So Ryan and his family made the decision to come to Omaha in late June. And did the quarantine that he had to do once he got here. And then, he would drive up to Jeremy Anderson's garage every single day and work out with Jeremy. And that really, that extra 2 months before school start, the work that he was able to do was invaluable to him. He's made, really good progress because of that. And, he's going to be a really good player for us. It's the speed of the game is certainly different. That's something he's going to have to adjust to. We have to adjust to him too, because he is very effective when he catches it around the basket. And, we haven't thrown it in there a bunch for a number of years. So our guys need to get a little bit more retrained when he's in the game to make sure we give him a look, because he's so big, he's so long, takes up so much space in there that I think he can be effective. And, hopefully we can keep those three guys healthy enough that we can rotate him in and out of there. But Ryan's got a bright future. We're really excited that he's here.
Jumping into that sophomore class, one guy who fans didn't get to see last year, I mean, unless they were watching the bench celebrations and listening very well, was Antoine Jones, the transfer from Memphis. Obviously had the sit-out year, running the scout team for you guys. What does Antoine look like now as he's incorporated into what you guys are trying to do, with your positionless basketball and trying to incorporate a lot of the things you guys do with the freedom of offense and everything?
Yeah, we've tried to keep it simple for Antoine, and really have taught him just one position right now. And if guys have to play multiple positions, we've leaned more, more on Denzel and DJ to maybe do that, to try to simplify it for the new guy. His just ability to handle the ball, pass the ball, get in the paint, has really improved his shooting. I think he'll bring to us, and, he may start some, he may come off the bench some, but, I think people, when Denzel came in the game last year, I think it changed our team in a way, like defensively, our opponents had to go, okay, how are we going to do this? This guy's skill set is different than anybody else they had. And I think Antoine falls into that. He can beat you off the dribble. He can shoot the three, very gifted passing the basketball, and good feel for the game. Having said all that, there's a lot of things that we have had to change about his game. He's going to make some plays that are going to, our fans are absolutely going to love, and he's going to make some plays that Coach Mack wants to pull his hair out once in a while. So, we have to try to lessen the number of those and keep adding to the good plays. And I think that's taken place over the course of time and practice. And the good news with some of the, practice that's been missed by some other guys, he's been able to step in there and get some more reps. So hopefully, he gets a feel in a hurry about how we're going to play and what's his role and how can he best impact winning. But without question, he's going to be an important part of our rotation.
Gotcha. Nickyle, saw him in the red jersey today in the practice tweet you guys posted. So we know he's available for Sunday if you need him. Obviously a hardworking kid. And it seemed like, based on just, the little snippets that he posted throughout the summer, that he was working on his game quite a bit during whatever time he could find in the gym. What have you seen so far out of what you brought in?
Nick's work hard. His body's better. He's shooting the basketball better. Last year we used him a lot at the 5 on the scout team because of, the number crunch we had there at that position. And we've been able to slide him onto the wing a little bit more, still on that scout team, but making some solid improvements, especially with his ability to shoot the basketball. And I think defensively he's made some strides, was able to keep quickness in front of him, where last year he was battling bigs all the time. This year he's out there fighting some wings a little bit. I think that's been good for him, but really valuable member of our team. Anytime you can get someone, 6'7", 6'8", that's willing to walk onto your program and spend the time and work at it the way that Nick does, it's certainly a positive, and he makes us better every single day.
On to the guy who was probably most upset about the halftime cancellation March 12th last year, Jack Canfield, was kind of in his bag there against St. John's for a little bit. That was probably the hardest news you had to break to him at halftime, that none of that was going to count. How's he doing so far?
He's doing good. Jet was someone that, none of us were probably anticipating being in the rotation a year ago, and he continued to work. And it's one thing to have your number called. It's another thing to be ready when your number's called. And to Jet's credit, going back to the Texas Tech game when he got thrown in there in Vegas, to the end of the year when we had the injury problems with Marcus and he was thrown into action again. He'd go some games that he wouldn't play, and but when his number was called, he was ready. And I think he's carried that over to this season. Done a good job in practice. He's gotten stronger, shooting the basketball at a pretty good level. It remains to be seen what role he's going to play. But I'm confident, and I have confidence that I know that if his number is called, he's going to be ready.
The Omaha kid next. Dribble out the clock on your guys' championship, Big East championship win over Seton Hall. Play a little bit. I guess his role is like you kind of follow that Kyrie Thomas mold where he comes in with a lot of defensive accolades, coming from Omaha, and doesn't get consistent playing time as a freshman, but that's kind of to be expected. What do you see out of him so far? Not only from the defensive side of the ball, but in his shooting, that's you guys have constantly been working on him to get better at.
Yeah, I think across the board, I think Sharif has made really good progress. I think his shooting is better. His decisions, his assist to turnover is much better at this point through 30 practices than it was a year ago. Defensively, he always plays with great energy and effort. And I think fundamentally, in terms of being in the right place, I think he's improved there as well. So, I think obviously he'll back up Marcus to start the season, but I also think we can play those two together at times, to really get some speed and quickness on the floor. So I've been really pleased with Sharif. I think if you would ask me who's made the most progress on the team in the off season, I think Sharif has. I think Christian's right there as well. But a lot of guys have worked hard and improved, but Sharif's certainly near the top of that list.
This next guy we probably could lump into the freshman based on how much time he spent on the court, but you guys have got him listed as a junior, so Jacob Everson will be with the junior group here. Obviously, he's been through a ton physically, and I don't know what anybody could possibly expect from him from a realistic standpoint, but from what you've seen so far in his off-season workouts and practices, what are you expecting out of Jacob Everson this year?
Well, it's going to be a wait and see, how it goes when we get into games. He's to the point now where he's practicing most of the time. Certainly not practicing every day, and I'm not sure we'll reach the point that he'll ever be able to do that. But Jeremy Anderson and Ben McNair and our medical team have done an unbelievable job of getting him ready, and obviously that all starts with Jacob and his commitment to his rehabilitation, and he's done an awesome job in that regard. And I just hope we can get him back out there. I hope he can be part of the rotation, whether that's a few minutes a game or 15 minutes a game. That's yet to be seen. But just to have him feel like he's contributing to the success of our basketball team, because as you mentioned, he's been through a lot. I'm not sure many people would keep coming back for more, but he keeps coming back for more, and he does it with a positive attitude and an energy that's infectious. So, hopefully he can do some things for us. It's going to take him some time. There's no question. And I think, when he's playing, it's going to be in short spurts, certainly to start. And then hopefully as the season goes on, he feels more comfortable. But it's great to see him back out there running around. He's had a long road, as you mentioned. And if anybody deserves to have a little success and have some good things happen, it's Jacob.
Christian Bishop was that guy, along with Sharif, that you mentioned might be the early candidates for most improved based on what they've done so far. What does that look like for Christian? Because I feel like he was really undervalued in how you guys kind of broke out and hit your stride last year, considering how active he was at that 5 spot for you. But what is the most improved version of Christian look like, I guess?
Well, he wasn't undervalued in our eyes. I mean, we completely understood the value he had to our team, and his ability to handle it and pass it and make decisions on the top of the floor was really good for us last year. And I just think he's added some strength to his body. He's finishing through contact better. He's not taking a ton of threes, but he's picking his spots, and he's knocked some down in practice at a better rate than he did a year ago. But Christian understands what he brings to the team and the value he brings to the team. And I think defensively, his ability in ball screens for us to be creative with how we change up our pressure in that way, much like we did with Martin Krampel, can really upset the flow of our opponent's offense. So, I've been really, really pleased with Christian. He's worked and got better every single day. And he's going to be an important part of what we do. There's no question.
This next guy isn't really a mystery to many, but he certainly has a brighter spotlight on him than he's probably ever had in his career in Marcus Sagarowski. Obviously, coming off the injury is one thing, so timing has certainly been affected in terms of maybe how much he's been able to do and hitting the ground running from day one. But what have you seen so far to how he's dealt with that, and also how he's, handling kind of being a marked man for the first time in terms of his national appeal?
Yeah, I think he'll notice right away on Sunday that his body looks better. He's gotten stronger and, put a lot of work in with Jeremy in that regard. But, I'll be surprised if he can start at the level that he finished last year, just because you don't miss 4 months and then be upset in the summertime like we were with the pandemic and step back on the floor and pick up where you left off. I think it's going to take some time. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's able to put it into overdrive right away. But it's going to take a little bit of time, I think. But he's handled it well. His leadership's been terrific. And he's a difference maker on the floor. He can make plays for other people. Obviously, he's a shot maker in a lot of ways. Defensively, he plays his tail off. As you mentioned, even back to high school when I first met him, he was always kind of a guy under the radar, under recruited, but he always won. And that's followed him to college, and I think it's going to follow him beyond college. The guy's a winner. He impacts winning in a lot of ways, and that's a big reason we were successful last year, and a big reason that we have a chance to be successful this year because of what he brings to the table. But he's a humble kid. He doesn't like the attention. He doesn't like to talk to you or any other media members. He'd just rather do his deal and have everybody leave him alone. And let him get to the gym and go to work. But I think he understands that people are paying some attention this year. And, like we've talked to him about getting to the next play when he makes a bad play, which he struggled a little bit when he was younger. He's going to have to do that this year with games. There are going to be some games where, you're the marked man and they put on defenders and they run two at you and they try to get the ball out of your hands. He's going to have to get past the games where he doesn't live up to his expectations and get ready for the next one, because this is going to be a marathon of a season, and as we've talked about, there's going to be a lot of interruptions, and I think he's mature enough to handle all that.
Onto this senior class, starting with the new addition to it, Alex O'Connell, transfer from Duke. Originally, as things normally would go, he'd be a guy that's, your sit one, play one, and use the development year. But now you have the opportunity to have a free year of eligibility if you're eligible to play. I know you guys had got him, I know that rule allowed you guys to use him as a practice guy and travel with them. But is there a plan now in place, given the injuries you guys have sustained and the likelihood that guys will be in quarantine, that you might have to try to apply for a waiver and activate him?
Yeah, Alex and his family made the decision to transfer because they really valued the year off. And, part of the draw to Creighton certainly was our system and how he thought he might fit into our system. But part of it was also what he felt like Jeremy Anderson and his team could do for him in a year away from basketball, just working on his body and developing some of those physical tools. So when we first approached him with it, even back in October, he and his family just were really hesitant to make that move because it's so important for them to have a year to really work on things other than basketball, on his body and certainly skill development in basketball, but the strength that it's going to take for him to move his game forward. And I think as things happen and you saw things around the country, teams getting shut down and players being pulled out, I think it's caused him to pause and have some more conversations with me with his family about the possibility of trying to file a waiver and see if we can't get him eligible. So we've made that request to the NCAA. I've talked to Coach K. He's in full support of Alex playing. Now it's just a matter of whether we can get the waiver through. And, it doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason as to which waivers are granted and which ones aren't. And I'm not privy to the information as to why those happen and why they don't. But there's quite a stockpile, I think, of transfers because of the pandemic. I think every person that transferred is trying to get this year. So I think the NCAA is overloaded with requests, and obviously the lateness of us putting it in there because of his decision to put it on hold, puts us at the back of the stack. So when will we get an answer? We're not sure. But we're at least pursuing it. And, I've been pleased with his progress. I think as he's been in our system, had the ball in his hands more. And, there's been times because we've been short players that he's actually played on the team with Marcus and Mitch, and has learned what ball movement will do for an offense. And if you'll just wait for it to happen, the offense will work for you. So he's going to be a good player for us. And if it turns out he can play this year, great. If not, I think he'll have a great senior season for us a year from now.
Gotcha. Starting jumping into two guys that tested the professional waters a little bit just to kind of gauge it, but ultimately ended up coming back to your program, Damian Jefferson and Denzel Mahoney. Starting with DJ, a guy that was like a super useful utility guy for you guys last year, made incredible hustle plays, winning plays. His athleticism was obviously useful. Was great at getting to the rim and finishing. What does the senior year version of him look like? The one that's coming back and still has aspirations of playing professionally.
Well, I just know, Matt, he can build on some of the things that he was able to do last year. He shot it good as a sophomore until the ankle injury. That kind of derailed him. And then, I think he was still feeling the effects of that at the start of last season. So he didn't get off to a good start shooting the basketball, and it kind of snowballed on him. I think we'll get back to the mean there where, he can be a 35 to 40% 3-point shooter and do that consistently. And then do all the stuff that he did last year, the hustle plays, the things he does defensively, the things he does on the glass for us. And then just the energy that he brings to our team because of his attitude. So, DJ was critical to our success last year, and there's no question he's going to have his fingerprints all over it again this season.
And Denzel Mahoney is an interesting guy too, because, coming in, I don't think he expected to, nor do I think you guys expected to have him play some small ball five. But as the season kind of like morphed, it turned out that was a pretty potent lineup for you guys, and that was something from a standpoint of getting him on the floor and getting some rotation, getting to some prominent rotations. He felt like he would have to do it. What does it look like now with a spot opened up with Davion transferring, Tyshawn going off to the NBA? Does he slot down now into that spot for you guys? Do you like his skill set there still, or how does he fit?
Yeah.
What you guys want to do?
Yeah, we didn't have Davion in last year anyway, so I don't think that really has impacted us in any way. But Tyshawn leaving certainly leaves a gaping hole there on both ends of the floor, and I'm hopeful that Denzel can fill that on both ends of the floor. I think defensively he's capable with his strength and lateral quickness to do some things. And the question will be, and Tyshawn had to learn to do it, can you exert that kind of energy defensively and still be an effective offensive player? And Tyshawn proved that you can do that. So it's certainly a change. Playing him at the 5 and that small ball lineup was a way for us to kind of throw a curveball at our opponent, and at the same time, a way to get Denzel on the floor a little bit more. This year it's going to be different. He's going to be more at that wing position, and it's going to be, last year he was guarded by a 4 or 5. I think my guess he's guarded by a 2 or 3 this year. So more quickness, where he's going to have to use his strength to overpower him some, but really shot the basketball at a high level. I think he improved this summer in a lot of ways, and his numbers in practice shooting the basketball have been really, really good. And I've been really pleased, watching Jimmy Butler in the NBA playoffs. It's something I've talked to Denzel a lot about, how can you impact the games in other ways besides scoring? And obviously Jimmy's an elite defender. I thought his ability to get his teammates involved off the dribble, sometimes even turning down a layup to kick it out for a 3-point shot to Duncan Robinson, I thought that just permeated throughout their team. And I think Denzel has the ability to do that. He's shown that at times in practice. His assist to turnover is completely different than it was a year ago. And I'm hopeful that that'll carry over once game starts. So, so far so good. And I think he's going to make that adjustment more to the wing position, hopefully in a very seamless manner.
Gotcha. Lastly, I think most who haven't seen you guys yet, or certainly this version of you, would probably expect you guys to go as Marcus Sagarowski goes, but this last guy we have here is probably the tone setter in terms of the mental makeup of your group, and he has been for a while in Mitch Balek. How valuable is it in a season like this to have a guy with that much experience and with that much leadership ability coming back into your program and trying to navigate you guys through a really unprecedented time?
Mitch has a great perspective on a lot of things, not just basketball, but his approach to life and to his family and to his girlfriend and you name it. He gets it, and that leadership has been critical for us. And he, along with Marcus and DJ and Denz and Jet and CB, the guys that have been here, Jacob, it's been critical for us to be able to continue to get in the gym every day and really set your mind on improving at a time when it's a grind and it's a drag because of the amount of time that we've been in the gym, and because, as I mentioned, their life outside the gym isn't what it normally is. So he's been a rock for us. Defensively, I've been pleased with his progress. Offensively, I still don't think he shoots enough, and I'd like him to shoot a little bit more. But that's just who he is. He if he thinks he's got an okay shot and a teammate's got a better shot, he's going to make that pass because that's the way he's wired. So, he's invaluable for us in a lot of ways, and we're lucky to have him. And I think he'll. I don't know that we'll realize just how much we miss him until he's not here anymore. But he's had a huge impact in this program since the day he walked on campus. And we've had a lot of success because of what he's brought to the table. And I think I'm hopeful that we're going to see the best version of Mitch Balek this season.
Gotcha. Well, Mac, I appreciate you, taking time out of your, I guess it's Friday night, right? Yeah, Thanksgiving week, Friday night to chat about the team. And, knock on wood, I'm certainly rooting for you guys to at least get on the floor after such a long hiatus. I know how bad you guys want to be just playing in the game again. So hopefully everything goes well between now and then, and looking forward to seeing you on the floor Sunday afternoon.
Well, thank you. And like you said, anything can happen. Some things change day to day. This seems to change hour by hour. But Matt, we're going to need our fans this year more than ever. These are challenging times in the world of athletics. Obviously, men's basketball and our season ticket holders and the donations that are attached to those season tickets that's how we survive as an athletic department. And a lot of that's not going to be there this year. And we're hopeful as time moves on that we can allow some fans. But any way that our fans are able to support us, we would really appreciate it this year. I think we have a chance to have a special season, and people are going to have to enjoy it in a different way, potentially. We hope this vaccine comes along and we can get it wiped out and we can get back to business as usual. But, the fan base and the community support is what makes Creighton basketball what it is. And at a time like this, we need our fans more than ever. And we appreciate those that have already stepped up and are willing to help us in any way they can to help us navigate through some very, very difficult times. And at the same time, recognizing that some of our fans are going through some very, very difficult times in their professional lives and their personal lives. So that certainly doesn't go unnoticed for us. More than ever, we appreciate the people that support us, and I'm hopeful that this will be behind us soon, and we can get back to having a full house in the CHI Health Center.
Always good to talk to you, Mac. Be well, buddy.
Thanks, Matt.